I should have known something was wrong the moment Ray started smiling. Not the fake boardroom grin he usually wore. This was different, too wide, too calm. Like he'd just gotten away with something, because, as I'd find out 60 seconds later, he had. My name is Liam Rourke. I'm 31, or was, on the day my boss stole everything I'd built and kicked me out the door like a failed intern. Up until that morning, I was a director of systems innovation at Calix Logistics, a mid-sized supply chain firm that loved buzzwords and feared disruption. Until I gave them both. I had spent 6 months crafting a predictive algorithm that would reduce warehouse overhead by nearly 18%. And that was conservative. My late nights, my missed weekends, the insomnia-fueled whiteboard marathons, all of it led to this pitch. Or at least, it was supposed to. The boardroom was full, VPs, investors, and Ray Bannister, the VP of operations and my direct boss. I was halfway through slide 6, right as I started explaining our new load balancing matrix, when Ray stood up and cut in. "I'll take it from here," he said casually, stepping in front of the projector like it was a handoff. My heart stuttered. I thought maybe he was going to add color, emphasize strategy, frame it for the execs. Instead, he clicked to the next slide and said, "What you're seeing here is my latest initiative, a proprietary modeling system I've been developing to revolutionize our fulfillment process." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. He was describing my code, my work. Down to the name, Quantum Mesh. He hadn't even bothered to rename it. I looked around the table, waiting for someone, anyone, to say something. No one did. They nodded. One even smiled. The CFO leaned back and muttered, "Impressive." I just sat there, staring at the man hijacking my life's work like it was a casual PowerPoint edit. The more he talked, the more surreal it felt. He wove in anecdotes that never happened, bragged about late nights he never pulled. And when he got to the financial projections, my projections, I swear I felt something break in my chest. After the meeting, I stumbled out of the room like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. I just walked back to my office and closed the door. I sat in my chair, staring at the wall, hoping maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe he'd come explain. Maybe there was some reason. Then my phone rang. "Liam, can you come to my office for a moment?" Ray's voice, smooth, casual, like nothing had happened. I walked down the hall, eyes darting from cubicle to cubicle. People looked busy, or they pretended to be. No one made eye contact. His office door was already open when I got there. I stepped in. He didn't invite me to sit. "I know today probably felt unexpected," he said, folding his hands behind his desk like he was practicing empathy. "But this company's shifting directions. It's not personal." I stared at him. "You took my work." "I repurposed what needed repurposing," he said. "That's leadership. You want credit? Start your own company. Otherwise, get used to being stepped on." He slid a white envelope across the desk. My termination letter. 2 weeks severance. No NDA. He didn't even think I was a threat. I didn't say a word. I picked up the envelope and walked out. Packing up your desk, while the office pretends you don't exist, is a special kind of humiliation. The walk of shame, the sticky silence, the way coworkers suddenly have meetings they weren't planning 5 minutes ago. I tossed a couple framed photos into a box, left my nameplate behind, and left without turning back. My apartment was quiet when I got home. Too quiet. I kicked off my shoes and sat on the floor, box in my lap, back against the wall. It felt unreal. 6 months of pushing boundaries, chasing perfection, and now I was jobless because some well-dressed parasite saw a shortcut to applause. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a resignation letter, a journal entry. I needed something to remind me I still existed, that my voice hadn't been erased along with my job title. He took my work, my name, my dignity, and he smiled while doing it. I let him. I froze. I said nothing. I don't know what's worse, what he did, or that I just let it happen. I saved the file, signed with my silence.xxx, because that's what it was, a signature without ink, a surrender without words. I closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there, stunned, until my phone buzzed, a text, from a number I recognized. Cassidy Marks. She was the senior liaison for our biggest client, an account worth 7 figures and a major pillar of our quarterly forecast. "Hey, heard something weird today? Not from Ray, from others. Can we talk? Privately?" I blinked. She didn't message him. She messaged me. Something twisted in my gut. Hope? Revenge? I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. Ray wasn't the only one who'd made a move today. And I wasn't done. I hadn't been to this place in years. It was the kind of bar you only end up in if you're either celebrating something big or recovering from something worse. That night, I was firmly in the second category, sitting in a dimly lit booth, nursing a drink that tasted like defeat, waiting for a woman I barely knew to tell me whether my career was completely dead or about to be reborn. Cassidy Marks walked in with the kind of confidence that turns heads but never asks permission. Black coat, sharp eyes, and not a trace of hesitation as she spotted me and slid into the booth across from mine. "You look like hell," she said without smiling. "Thanks," I said, raising my glass in mock toast. "That makes 2 of us." She didn't laugh, just ordered a bourbon and leaned forward. "I'll get to the point. What the hell happened?" I stared at her for a second, trying to gauge her angle. Her tone wasn't accusatory. It was direct, sure, but not cold. I sighed and told her the truth. All of it. From the boardroom ambush to the termination envelope. I didn't even edit the bitterness out. When I finished, she didn't say anything right away. Just took a slow sip of her drink and then looked at me like she'd just confirmed a theory she didn't want to be right about. "I knew it," she muttered. "I knew that smug bastard didn't write that algorithm." I blinked. "You suspected?" "I've been in this industry long enough to know what real innovation sounds like," she said. "Ray pitches like a guy who once read a tech blog. You talk to me about feedback loops and integration latency like you actually understood it." "I did understand it," I said flatly. "I built the damn thing." She nodded. "Which is why I'm here. I don't want to deal with Ray anymore." I laughed bitterly. "Well, that makes 2 of us." "No, Liam," she said, more firmly now. "I mean it. I want to work with you, not Calix, you." For a moment, I just stared at her, not sure if she was being serious or setting me up. "I'm unemployed, and pretty sure I'm still under a non-compete." Cassidy pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a PDF, highlighted, annotated, with legal notes scribbled in the margins. "I had my legal team look into it. Your clause is soft. It restricts you from engaging clients in competing offers, but not if the client initiates and you're operating as a separate entity. That's a gray area, and I know how to use gray." I exhaled slowly. "And you'd really walk away from Calix?" "I already have," she said, and this time there was the hint of a smile. "My exit notice is sitting in Ray's inbox. The ink isn't even dry." That hit me harder than I expected. I'd assumed I was radioactive, exiled, tainted. But here was someone who'd seen through the show, who knew what I was worth even after I'd been kicked to the curb. "You'd sign with me?" I asked. "Start a company," she said. "Build your own house. I'll be your first tenant." I didn't say anything for a while, just stared at the glass in front of me like it could give me the courage I hadn't felt in days. Because the truth was, I hadn't even thought about fighting back. Not seriously. I'd been so stunned by the betrayal, I forgot I still had a spine. Cassidy stood, pulling her coat back on. "You have my number," she said. "I'll expect to hear from you soon. But don't take too long. Opportunities get cold fast." And then she was gone. I walked home in a haze, heart pounding in that weird rhythm you get when adrenaline meets possibility. I should have been elated, but all I could think about was how much could still go wrong. What if Ray retaliated? What if Cassidy changed her mind? What if I failed? By the time I got back to my apartment, it was almost midnight. I sat down at my desk, opened a new document, and stared at the blinking cursor. I typed one sentence. He said, "Get used to being stepped on." I leaned back. That line had haunted me ever since he said it. But now it felt different. It wasn't a scar, it was a spark. I opened a browser tab and searched how to form an LLC in state. Then I started building. Name, structure, articles of organization. It all flowed out of me like I'd been waiting my whole life to do this. The logo came next, nothing fancy, just black text in a clean font, TrueSync systems, not flashy, just true. By 3 a.m., I had a shell company, a plan, and a strange, unfamiliar sensation in my chest. Hope. I didn't have funding. I didn't have an office. Hell, I didn't even have a team. But I had me. And this time, I wouldn't be silenced. The first dollar I spent on TrueSync wasn't on software, hardware, or hiring. It was on a logo. Stupid, right? I know. But something about seeing the name in clean black lettering, True, Sync, Systems, on a white background made it real. It turned the abstract into a brand, not just an idea, not a reaction to betrayal, a company, mine. I'd cashed out my 401k the morning after I met with Cassidy. Half penalties, half panic, all in. I moved everything into a separate account labeled Build or Burn. I even changed the wallpaper on my phone to that phrase, like I needed a constant reminder of what was at stake. Because this wasn't just a side hustle or rebound project, it was war, silent, strategic, personal. The co-working space I signed up for smelled like burnt coffee and ambition. It had exposed brick, overpriced kombucha on tap, and people typing aggressively on laptops like they were reinventing currency. I didn't care about the vibe. I cared about the Wi-Fi and the mail drop. Everything else I could fake until it didn't need faking. Day one, I opened my laptop, loaded the last full build of Quantum Mesh I had archived before Calyx wiped my credentials, and started carving out the bloat. It took hours. Every time I hit a snag, I heard Ray's voice in my head again. Get used to being stepped on. But I wasn't crawling anymore. I was sprinting. On day 3, I called Marco. He didn't answer. On day 4, I tried again. This time, he picked up. If this is about Ray, I already know. It's not, I said. It's about something better. We met that afternoon at a greasy taco joint 2 blocks from his apartment. Marco hadn't changed much. Scruffy beard, sarcastic eyes, hoodie with holes. But he listened, quietly, carefully. I laid it out. Cassidy's support, the loophole, the plan. You want to build from scratch? He asked, mouthful of carnitas. In a garage? Why not? You in or not? He didn't answer. He just nodded, pulled out his phone, and started clearing his calendar. The garage was my cousin's. She used to use it for ceramics before her baby came, and sleep became a luxury. I offered her a cut of the company. She rolled her eyes and gave me the keys. We set up a folding table, a whiteboard we bought off Facebook Marketplace for $99, and 2 mismatched office chairs. I printed the logo on cheap vinyl and stuck it to the wall. It peeled on the edges, but I didn't care. It was enough. Marco coded. I pitched. I spent my mornings on Zoom with former vendors, logistics partners, old contacts who always liked me more than they liked Calyx. I never said the word revenge. I didn't need to. I just told them I was building something that fixed the inefficiencies they'd all been complaining about for years. I didn't even mention Ray, but they knew. One of them said, honestly, I always wondered how he survived without someone like you holding the place together. I just smiled. At night, I ran contracts past a lawyer I found through a Reddit referral. He was young, hungry, and charged half his usual rate when he heard about what happened. Screw those guys, he said. Let's bury them in clauses. We incorporated within a week. I secured provisional IP protections. Cassidy's team sent over a tentative agreement, and we began porting her company's API requirements into our system. Meanwhile, Ray was on LinkedIn, smiling like a shark in a business-casual sweater vest, announcing strategic expansion and cutting-edge beta development. His captions read like victory laps. I knew better. I knew they didn't have the source code. I knew they didn't understand the latency buffers or the real-time logic threading that kept the algorithm efficient. They had the name, maybe a few mocked-up decks, but not the machine. That machine was mine, and it ran on blood. 2 weeks in, Marco looked up from his screen and said, "You realize they were going to freak out when they realize it doesn't work, right? I'm counting on it." He grinned. "You're scarier than you used to be." "I have more to lose." He went back to coding. I stared at the whiteboard, half covered in arrows and boxes and scribbled reminders. I thought about everything I'd left behind: salary, benefits, office snacks, the illusion of security. But I also thought about what I'd gained: freedom, focus, fire. I was building something honest, functional, dangerous. And I knew, deep down, Ray's time was running out. Because sooner or later, he'd call that client. And when he did, He'd realize he was out of answers, and I'd be holding the line. Cassidy didn't hesitate. She walked into her own boardroom, handed the termination documents to Calix's liaison, and signed our contract with the same blue pen she used to end million-dollar deals. It was done in under 3 minutes. No press conference, no theatrics, just precision. I sat across the table, watching her write my company's name on the last page, TrueSync Systems, LLC. The ink bled slightly on the corner. My signature followed hers. Then her legal team countersigned, stamped it, and slid the final copy into a sleek black folder with her company's crest embossed on the front. Calix's system was never going to deliver, she said, standing. And frankly, Ray's been trying to stall for weeks. He has no idea we were ever this close to walking. I nodded, though I already knew. Marco had shown me the LinkedIn updates. Ray had been ramping up hype, posts about beta launches, client growth, automation breakthroughs. But behind the curtain, their engineering team was flailing. I knew that because 2 of them had quietly messaged me about job openings. Cassidy walked me out of the building personally. No assistants, no handlers. Just her, a gray coat, and sharp heels clicking against marble tile. "We'll make the announcement in the morning," she said, pausing at the front doors. "I want their panic to last exactly 48 hours. Why 48? Because that's when Ray's fake product launch is scheduled, she said. Let's give him something real to talk about. By the time I got into my car, the reality still hadn't fully landed. I gripped the steering wheel for a full minute before I started the engine. Outside her building, the world moved on like nothing had shifted, but it had. For the first time since Ray stole my work, the balance tilted in my favor. The drive home was silent. I didn't play music. I didn't call Marco. I just replayed it all. The boardroom ambush, the box of my things, the first time I hit save on the TrueSync logo file. All of it built to today. I pulled into my garage. Marco's code was still running on the monitor, line after line crawling down the terminal. He'd added another back-end failsafe. The whole system was tighter than ever. Lean, secure, fast. The version Calix had tried to Frankenstein from memory didn't even come close. The next morning, Cassidy's company posted the statement. It was short, corporate, and cold. Effective. As of this week, we have terminated our partnership with Calix Logistics and will be integrating solutions from TrueSync Systems, effective immediately. Underneath it, a linked press kit and a subtle nod to technical misalignment with former vendors. I refreshed the post twice just to make sure it was real. By noon, it had over 2,000 views. Industry analysts started chiming in. The headline circulated, "Major European distributor cuts ties with Calix. Names new partner." Ray didn't call me, not at first. He called Cassidy. She didn't answer. Then he called again and again. By the 5th call, I knew what was coming next. I walked into the garage, sat down at my desk, and waited. The phone rang. Blocked number. I let it ring twice before answering. "TrueSync Systems," I said. There was a beat of silence. Then, "You've got to be kidding me." I recognized the voice instantly. Ray's tone was thin, controlled, like someone pretending not to be drowning. "I'm looking for Cassidy," he said. "She's unavailable," I replied. "Then connect me to someone in charge." I paused just long enough to let him wonder. "You're speaking with the new CEO." Silence again. A heavier beat this time. One where I imagined him blinking, recalculating, trying to process what just hit him. Then, click. He hung up. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long, slow breath. Not relief, not gloating, just release. Like exhaling months of humiliation in one exhale. I clicked over to our website. Still simple. 1 page, mission statement, services, and a contact form. But at the top, right beneath the banner, Liam Rourke, founder and CEO. No footnotes, no stolen slides, no VP standing in front of the screen. Just my name, where it belonged. Marco walked in holding 2 coffees. He saw the look on my face and handed me one. "He call?" "Yep." "What did he say?" "Nothing important." Marco grinned. "Good, let's keep it that way." I nodded and took a sip. Ray Bannister had stolen my work, my credit, and tried to erase me. But the thing about trying to bury someone alive, sometimes they crawl out stronger, smarter, quieter. And when they rebuild, they sign with their own damn pen. The door to my office says, Liam Rourke, founder and CEO. It's etched in brushed metal, centered just right on the frosted glass. Every time I walk past it, I smile a little, not because it impresses anyone else, but because it reminds me that I didn't stay down. 6 months ago, I was packing my things into a cardboard box while my coworkers pretended not to see me. Now, I walk into a space built from scratch, with real light, real people, and no one stealing credit. The windows are huge, the furniture is mismatched but intentional, and our codebase runs so clean you can feel the efficiency in the air. TrueSync Systems isn't just surviving, we're scaling, fast. We've onboarded 3 more clients in the last 60 days. Our core team is 10 people now, still lean, still scrappy, but smart, hungry, and best of all, I hired 3 former colleagues Ray once labeled as non-essential. Turns out, people work differently when they're trusted. When you stop managing them with fear and start inviting them to build. I don't do motivational speeches. I don't lead with fire. I lead with clarity, with quiet. We don't have an anthem. We have results. Cassidy dropped by today. She brought champagne and sarcasm like usual. 6 months, she said, raising her glass as we stood on the rooftop of our building. Not bad for a guy who used to eat lunch in his car. I laughed. It was quieter in there. And now you're up here, drinking expensive bubbles and running a company that's outperforming your old employer in quarterly velocity. Not bad, Rourke. We toasted. The skyline stretched around us, pink and gold in the late light. No flash, no camera crew. Just the hum of rooftop air units and the sound of something new beginning. You never even raised your voice, she said after a moment. That part always stuck with me. I didn't need to, I said. She smiled. Quiet vengeance, my favorite kind. We talked for another hour, mostly about growth strategy, a bit about onboarding pain, and a little about Marco's bizarre coding playlist. Then she handed me a small box before heading out. Don't open it now. Wait until tonight. I nodded and watched her disappear into the elevator, heels clicking softly. Back in my office, I stood by the glass and watched the team. They didn't notice me. That's the best part. When people stop worrying about how they're being watched and just get the work done. Everyone was focused, present. Not because they were scared of losing something, but because they believed in what they were building. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and checked the dashboard. Cassidy's integration was humming at 99.8% uptime. Marco had updated the back-end stability patch. Everything was moving like we'd imagined during those first late nights in the garage. Then the notification popped up. One new LinkedIn connection request. I clicked it open. Ray Bannister, no message, just his name and the request. I stared at it for a moment, not in anger, just curiosity. What was his play here? A weak olive branch? A fishing expedition? A way to see what I'd built now that the dust had settled? I didn't care. I hit ignore and archived the notification. No response, no comment, just the quiet act of erasure. I closed the tab and opened my journal file, the same one I started the night he fired me. Same font, same margins, just a new date. He took the credit, so I took the future. I saved it and leaned back in my chair. It was late now. Most of the team had gone home. A few developers were still finishing tickets on the far side of the floor, headphones in, tapping steadily. I reached for the small box Cassidy gave me. Inside was a metal pen, polished, heavy, engraved. Sign with your name this time. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I just sat there holding it, letting the weight settle into my palm. I turned off the desk lamp, grabbed my coat, and walked slowly to the door. My name gleamed in the glass as I pulled it shut behind me. 12-hour day, no regrets. Because this time, I wasn't building someone else's dream. This one had my name on the door.